during the pandemic, we were all sitting on our hands wondering what to do with ourselves. And my wife finally said, you should really try to write and sell that book. And I said, that does sound like a really good distraction during all this. And lo and behold, it worked.
Beverly Hills Noir, Crime, Sin, and Scandal in 90210. The book comes out in booksellers everywhere October 1st. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a long time in the works.
There's so much material to work from. And the way you did it also is really cool because it was the stories you tell are in chronological order. Some of them don't involve you at all, and some of them you were there for. So how did you decide to do it that way?
I came to the chapters that I was actively like there for last, not by any design, but that's just kind of how they were sort of in chronological order. And so when I got to the stories, the collection of stories I wanted to tell about things that I had worked on myself, I really had to make a decision. I'm like, I kind of want to tell my story, but that's so different from everything else all the other stories that precede it. But I'm like, I kind of feel like this is where I at least give a window into what Beverly Hills was like when I was hands-on working there, and like get a sense of how unusual the community was. You go to a city council meeting and Jack Lemmon is there to complain about what his neighbor's doing against the zoning laws, or a school board meeting, and Valerie Harper shows up because her kid's going to Beverly Hills High, not a private school. Or Charlton Heston would call me on the phone in my office and like talk to me about a local issue. It was the stars of that era were very still hands-on in that community. It's different today.
But you have details in there that are new to me, even having lived through it. And stories that are, I guess, Hollywood lore, and some of the other things you touch on that are just so revealing. Like like, wow, I had no idea. This makes you look at a story in a completely different light. I love how you did that.
Yeah, it's I think that having had that local experience and then going on to write for a lot of Los Angeles based magazines about the city itself, and then going into entertainment journalism and getting that long view of the industry and its history, and it kind of made a perfect Venn diagram of my interests. To tell these stories. And I love detail. And I know there's going to be people who are going to just want like 2 or 3 paragraphs on each story and wish I did that for, 50 stories rather than get this in depth. But I really wanted to put you in the room as best I could.
Let's talk a little bit about what you do, because you, like me, are an entertainment journalist, but you didn't start there. So let's go back to the beginning. Before your life was just red carpets, there was some crime and scandal involved, not by you, of course.
Not that I wrote about. Yeah, my first job when I moved to Los Angeles 30 years ago this year was at a newspaper in Beverly Hills, which I thought was going to be hilarious, and was, but also like I had only written coming out of college. I had only written, movie reviews and snarky pop culture commentary, and this was serious, especially the police and crime beat, which fell into my lap. And so I came at it like very, very serious. And luckily I did, because the newspaper and the police department did not have a good relationship, due to some political machinations that I get into in the book. So they were very wary when I reached out to them, wanting to go deeper than just, what the biggest sort of crime story of the week was. I wanted to get into the department. I wanted to learn about how they did everything. Eventually formed a really, really nice symbiotic relationship with the department. And at the same time, I was writing a lot of local history and color, and started to look into these old Beverly Hills crimes. Some of them very famous. Lana Turner, Johnny Stompanato, Bugsy Siegel. The Menendez brothers case was just wrapping up at that time. But there were so many more that I discovered and just became enamored of, and started both writing about them for the newspaper and kind of collecting them as a hobby, just because I got so curious about some of them. And this was going on, and I'd been thinking about a book for a really long time, and kind of wrote a few sort of sample chapters to get a feel for it. During the pandemic, we were all sitting on our hands wondering what to do with ourselves, and my wife finally said, you should really try to write and sell that book. And I said, that does sound like a really good distraction during all this. And lo and behold, it worked. And I was able to pick, I didn't want to cover, in this first book at least, some of the well-worn stories like the Menendez brothers. I wanted to focus more on stories that you'd never heard of, that had that only in Beverly Hills flavor to them. Some of them, like the Winona Ryder shoplifting story, might be somewhat familiar in your head, but you don't know all the details. You don't realize what a, epic kind of trial story it was. It's kind of a legal drama mostly. So that it was really fun to kind of curate which stories I was going to do in this. And Beverly Hills Noir, Crime, Sin, and Scandal in 90210 comes out October 1st. You'll be able to get it Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the major booksellers. If they don't have it in your local bookstore, they can more than likely get it for you if you ask for it. I'm very excited for everybody to read it, and I'm excited to meet people who've read it, who want to read it. I'll be doing an appearance at Book Soup on October 4th. That's coming Friday at 7 o'clock. So anybody that wants to, come by, be doing a Q&A, be signing books, anything can happen. Maybe there'll be a crime.